starting this thing off on fire. I'm sweating. I'm flashing.
You're sweating? Omi, are you sweating? No, you'd look cool as a cucumber.
Oh no, I'm drenched.
It's a little chilly here in North Carolina this morning. So
oh, is that where you are? Okay.
Yeah, I'm in Durham, North Carolina. Mm-hmm.
You guys are close, right?
No, I'm in Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're in North
Carolina. We are on the same coast and in the same
on the
country.
East Coast.
Yeah.
Time zone, not close.
Oh, it's Raleigh, Durham. That's what they call it, Raleigh, Durham, right? No?
That's the airport designation.
Okay.
But if you say that to someone who lives here, I live in Durham. Other people live in Raleigh, and some people live in Chapel Hill, which is where I went to college. So,
okay.
Actually, one of my best friends here is from Raleigh.
Really? Yes. Ask them. Tell them. They say, "Oh, do you live in Durham?" They're like, no. Like they have very distinct personalities, cultural differences, artistic differences, social justice differences. It's very interesting because they're all within like 20 minutes of each other in the Triangle area.
Okay.
So,
are you from North Carolina, Omi?
I am 7 generations deep.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. On both sides, mom and dad.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Anne-Marie, where are you from?
I'm from London, Ontario, Canada. The boring London,
really?
they call it. Yeah, it's the small London, named after the big London.
Yeah.
Near Toronto.
The boring London.
Yeah. When I moved here, I moved with all, like, I was working in this giant newsroom for this newspaper, and they were all British, and they'd say, "Where are you off to?" And I'd say, "London." "Oh, fabulous, lovely." And I'd be like, no, it's not that London.
Not that one.
That one, the other one.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
yeah.
Bless your heart. But they give you that's a very Southern thing. When we feel bad for you, we're like, "Oh, bless your heart."
Yeah. Yeah, right. Oh, well. My cats at that time of night where they act really weird and run around for no reason and meow. So I hope that doesn't. I don't know.
I can't hear a thing.
I'm weirded out by it. Do you have cats, Rachel? Because I have a cat. And
I do not. I did as a younger person. I had a dog most recently, but he is no longer with us. And now I am pet free. I know. I miss my puppy. He was a good boy. But no, we have no pets now. We moved into an apartment building, and we are in the pet-free tower. There is a pet-friendly tower, but now apparently there's pets all around, and you just need a letter saying that you need your pet.
Okay.
Oh,
so, like a service, a service thing. But I think it's just, they want their dogs, which is fine. I get it. I have no problem with it, but it is a thing.
So is this the first time that you two are connected? Because I've been looking at Hello Perry, and it seems like I see both your faces. So I just assumed that y'all had met before.
No, we've talked. We've exchanged a few emails. But you know how we are. Like, we're like, all of us, I think, are like, we would be good to connect. And then you send an email, and then I forget for like a week.
It's so bad. I forgot about this morning. Yeah. If I didn't put it in my calendar, I would have missed you both.
Yeah.
Are you both journalists, or you're both? No, Anne-Marie, you are. Yeah. But Omi, you are not.
No. Why don't we do intros?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Way to start. Okay.
Yeah.
And since you're talking about journalism, Anne-Marie, why don't you start? Like,
I'll keep on the time as well, because we will get cut off in 30 minutes.
All right.
So is that how long? This is a 30-minute call?
Yeah, she said she wanted to be 30, 40 minutes. So I'll just sort of start, wave at you.
Okay.
You want me to start?
Yeah, sure. That's great.
So I'm Anne-Marie McQueen, and I've been a journalist for 25 years. I call myself a recovering journalist, especially since the beginning of COVID, because I've sort of waking up. Like, I always wanted to be a journalist and a storyteller, but I've been a freelancer for the last 3 years, and it's helping me wake up and see what my industry is like, and sort of see it with, eyes that you can only see when you're far away from something. So, but I love telling stories, and that's why I started Hot Flash, because I noticed, I was going through things, and then I noticed that I didn't love like a lot of the discourse that was presented. Like, it's very alarmist. I was so happy to find you guys early on, because I knew it was very white and like white women's problems, because I lurked in all these Facebook groups for like a year, and I couldn't handle it. So anyway, that's why I started Hot Flash.
Nice.
Do you mind me asking how old you are?
Me, 50. Yeah.
Are you 50 as well, Rachel?
I am.
I'm 53. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, good ages.
We're all babies, you know.
Okay.
Who's next?
Half century babies.
That's right. That's right.
I'll go next. So I'm Omi Bernie Scott. I live in North Carolina. I would say that the vast majority of the work I've done for the last 25 years has been in social justice work. So advocacy, organizing, and policy work, and a little bit of philanthropy. I was a program officer for a small family foundation a long time ago. And in the last couple of years, I started to feel like exceptionally burnt out from that journey and that path. So I took a sabbatical from social justice work. Like, it was like, I'm going to take a year off. And I have 2 boys. My oldest is 28 and my youngest just turned 12. And my oldest was like, you should do a Patreon and you should take a creative sabbatical. And I was like, I don't even know what a Patreon is. And he was like, I'll set it up for you.
Nice.
And he did. He's so sweet. I have 2 sweetest kids in the world. And Che lives in Brooklyn. He graduated from Howard 5 years ago, and his day job is around disrupting toxic notions of masculinity as a trainer with this multinational NGO. But he's a creative, so he knew about Patreon, and I was like, "What is that?" And he was like, "You can ask people to provide you some additional support while you take the sabbatical." So I took a sabbatical and started trying to think about things that I would like to do. So I'm also a storyteller. I think that that's probably one of the threads that connects the 3 of us, is that we all are storytellers. And I wanted to talk to women in my peer group, women who are older than me, about life, and certainly menopause was coming up, and I haven't had a cycle since 2013. So but it was much more than just the physical pieces of what I'm experiencing as I'm aging. I was like, I want to understand culturally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, like how folk are navigating aging and menopause. And that's how the Black Girl's Guide to Surviving Menopause was born, out of these conversations I was having with this like amazing group of Black women and femmes, some here in North Carolina, others who don't live here. And then we started following each other on Instagram. I found Hot Flash. I was like, oh, look at that. And so, we started following each other. I think this is very interesting. Like, all of the folk who are in, I guess, our generation have started to congregate.
Yep.
And start to find each other. And when I started the podcast last year, I did not see Black women's voices centered. It was just not there. Also, like, some of the research was there, but I felt like what I was wanting was more qualitative anecdotal information. In addition to, of course, the information I wanted to see in terms of health disparities. It just wasn't there. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, I'll start something myself. And I tend not to focus as much on the physical aspects of menopause and aging. I focus more so on the kind of cultural, societal implications, and also very much from a social justice, reproductive justice lens, which has been, my work. So here we are now, talking 3 different locations.
Yeah. This is all very exciting and fascinating. I am Rachel Hughes, and I'm 50, and I live in Connecticut. I'm from New York City. And I was a teacher many years ago, young little kids, kindergartners. And I started working when I moved out here with a functional medicine practitioner, and I trained to work with chronic pain patients specifically. And out of that, and probably simultaneously, grew an interest in my own health and sort of navigating what was going on with me well before perimenopause. This just became a sincere interest in specifically the way food is used and or abused, and sort of what happens to people to have brought them into the office with some sort of chronic pain, inflammatory issue. So I got licensed to counsel in nutrition, and then simultaneously started this perimenopause thing. And so I started probably around 42, 43, and found that I just kept returning back to food as a way to sort of temper whatever I was going through. And it probably wasn't until maybe a year ago that I sincerely jumped on Instagram, less than a year ago. But, I started kind of like just futzing around and scrolling. And my son was on there for a time. He's 25. And so, I was kind of like just visiting and realized that there were things I was looking for or interested in that I wasn't finding at all. So one of them was certainly about perimenopause, menopause, and the other was specifically who was speaking to me, meaning women of color going through this. And I didn't see it. And I also felt like, let me just start talking about it myself. And there's just sort of a convergence of interests. So I also, I'm often ranting, my husband bears the brunt, about food insecurity and food injustice and access to food. That's always my jump off point with various things, but how that is just so, it's just not happening. And it was very frustrating to me in the health profession, medicine, these kinds of things that people just don't have equal access to good health and an experience around perimenopause and menopause that could be largely shifted through just plain old good food. So that's often where I start, as opposed to maybe storytelling, which I would love to think that I am, but I don't tell as good a story as the two of you, but I can certainly talk about food and nutrition and, with a lot of passion, open a discussion about women specifically, women of color often, and their experience around this time of life. So I got on Instagram and I thought, oh, I'm gonna start this movement, which didn't happen at all, because there's like ways of doing stuff, and then there's just ways of being who you are, and I don't know how to kind of
thing.
Yes, it's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. I wasn't clear that it was the Great Oz until I launched. The Black Girls. I had a personal account, and then when I launched the Black Girls Guide account, and it was like, you should make this a business account, and I was like, why? And they were like, you can, so you can check the analytics. I was like, the what?
Yeah. I know. There's definitely a learning curve. I'm still on it, and I know, even though we are all now connected to many women out there who are more or less in the same boat, whatever that boat might be, but there's still I feel like there's just a world that's untapped, and where it's whether you're talking about the physicality around this season of life, or the anecdotal information, sort of historical reference connection between women. There is just so much out there that we have ability to lend voice to. So it's exciting.
That's cool. It is everything. Someone said to me, do you think there's going to be enough to cover it? I'm like, what do you like? Of course I do. It goes from like the soul journey. There's the physical alone just is so vast and deep. Like, just the studies that are ongoing that need to be linked up, and then the nutrition aspect, and the changes that you need to make in your life, and then the whole business side of it, the whole femtech and menotech, and like we're going to be marketed to in a way that is going to be people are waking up like crazy. And
have you noticed that? It's like, because I've also become more keen now in the last year around the analytics, I've noticed that I get a lot more of that running ad.
Yeah.
All about vaginal atrophy.
Yeah.
Of course, this is good information to have, but I'm also like, are you trying to say something? Like, you don't even know.
It's so funny.
Vaginal atrophy, and it was like,
I know.
Vaginal dryness. I was like, it must be like it's a SEO keyword thing too, I think.
Yes.
Find these articles, they just be like vaginal dryness 18 times. Like, aren't there other symptoms? And
I'm like, oh. It's like, for me on my feed, y'all, seriously, it's between the getaway house, a tiny cabin, and vaginal dryness.
That's such a combination.
And it's like, what is the story have created? The marketers have created around you only. You need to go into the woods, and you need some vaginal dryness.
But mine is dating and vaginal dryness. Why can't I find a man? Yeah, because I'm single.
This is really interesting. So what is yours, Rachel? What part?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I do get a lot of vaginal dryness.
Awesome, y'all.
But I get a lot of skin stuff. Okay. I get a lot of skincare stuff. It is fascinating.
Okay. Great. I'm going to be thinking about this for the rest of the day as I go shopping. It's like, what is the story that social media has about me?
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. Anyway.
I'm real curious for both of y'all, though, around like the first kind of like memories you have of anybody ever talking about menopause. I know that my family, people talked about the change, and it was also more obvious around like physical manifestations. Like my mother is you don't know this. My mother is deceased. And most of my aunts and uncles are also have transitioned. But my Aunt Emma had a ubiquitous hand towel that she would kind of drape across her shoulder for her hot flashes. Oh. And as kids, I was thinking, she's being really dramatic about this. Like, I thought, there's no way her temperature is going up and down like this. And she would also like get you could not touch the thermostat in the house. That was like a cardinal sin. Do not adjust the air. She would freeze you out. And she would have this washcloth on her to wipe.
You knew as a child, you knew that she had this towel there because of some kind of physical change.
I knew it was a hot flash.
You knew it was a hot flash. Okay.
I knew it was a hot flash because they said these flashes, what I could hear, and I have 16 first cousins who are women.
Wow.
So my ex-husband said when I took him home to meet my family, he said, "Where are all the men?"
Did you say they'd been swallowed up?
I did. I said, we ate them. And if you don't
I knew it. Yes, we swallowed them. There are no more.
So there was always like some variations of conversations that we were privy to. If you could be quiet enough, you wouldn't get booted out the kitchen or booted out the bedroom. And we would ear hustle. Like I'm like, I learned ear hustling at a young age of just sitting. Ear hustling is like sitting really quietly and pretending like you're not eavesdropping. You're totally ear hustling this conversation. And my older cousins who were like 15, 20 years older than me, who were like second moms, would be like, "Get out."
I love that.
That's where I started hearing things. It was mostly around the physical things. In retrospect, though, y'all, I feel like some of the things I observed with my mother, my mom, my parents got divorced when she was in her late 40s, early 50s, and we were living in Maryland, and we moved back to North Carolina. Like, in retrospect, I feel like she was definitely going through all kinds of changes. And if I could time travel, which I'm working on, and I'll let y'all know if I figure it out. if I could time travel, I would go back and just want to sit on her bed and be like, so how are you feeling right now in your body? And like, what's going on with you and daddy? Do you feel like that's a function of this change that you're trying to navigate? Like, do you have all the support you need right now? Like, do you want to ship me and Georgette off somewhere for a year and just take care of yourself? And I wonder if she would accept that support.
Yeah.
Because she grew up where Black women don't accept help and support. They work very hard, and she was a nurse. She took care of everybody else until she got sick. So I just wonder what would have been possible for her as she was navigating aging and menopause, if the conversations might have been a little different.
Yeah. How old was she when she died, homie?
68.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have conversations with her all the time in my head. And Lord, I know she would get a kick out of the fact that I'm actually like having all these public conversations about this is really interesting, especially the parts that we're talking about, the sexy parts. She'd be like, talking about sex, Mom. Good sex.
Oh, that's good stuff. Anne-Marie, do you want to go ahead next, or?
Well, it's interesting because I have a similar story because my mom died when she was 53, like in 1997. And she had a lot of female problems. She had endometriosis, so she had a hysterectomy in her 40s. And so I don't remember her talking about menopause to me. But I do, again, I would just love to talk to her. So because I know that she was going through the soul transition and finding herself, because she was a nurse as well, and she was a like a colorectal nurse, and she retrained to be in palliative care, which was so interesting because that's what she ended up needing. And she left my father for a year, because they had a really passionate and rocky marriage, and she left him, and then they went to therapy and got back together. And she was, a bunch of other things, but and also didn't seem as like obsessed with me. There was an individuation that was happening, that it was palpable, which I think happens to a lot of women around that age. So again, I would love to talk to her about that, but I know she was going through that soul part, which was sad when she got sick. Yeah.
That's powerful.
It's funny, you two have that a lot in common there with your mom.
I do death doula work as well as part of a very personal spiritual path for me to provide support. I know there are some folk who have a whole business, and I don't. Okay. I have what I call a reluctant calling, that I have a disposition that has made it possible for me to provide support. Especially my local community here of friends and family who need support, who know that they're at the end of life, and have assisted. My mother was the first person I helped transition.
Wow.
So I think it's a really powerful thing to know that their stories live inside of us somewhere, and that this conversation that we are having right now, the three of us, and also the conversations we get to have publicly, kind of keeps that true, that their journey gets extended through what their daughters are figuring out, and that it's like a beautiful thing.
It is.
Yeah, it really is.
Love
it. Really
it.
Is. So my mother is still living, and we did not talk about her perimenopausal, menopausal years. Although in retrospect, I also see sort of seasons or years, if you will, where she was definitely going through things, right? So, and for her, and I don't know what she would say, but in my observation, many of the things that she was experiencing were probably more psychologically manifested. I don't remember her talking about hot flashes and, I don't know, migraines. She has, since I've started talking about my own journey, and she's has piped in, or I've asked her, and it seems that much of the physical stuff I am mimicking. So that's been interesting, and it's been helpful to have her as a reference to, ask about. She also, though, is very strong. She's, just very kind of, I don't know, button up, keep it to herself, and just keep plugging forward and muscling through. So, this Instagram thing would never have been anything she would have gotten into at all. She's very supportive of my doing it, but this would not be her thing. And I think though that's one of the things that's so good about this, is that whether it's a generational thing or a cultural thing, there is, many of us going through this now have said, or that I've heard have said, oh, my mother, she just didn't really get into it. And maybe you just didn't, especially perhaps with your children. I don't know. That is not, though, the experience that I see us having. I see many women talking about not only sharing it with their kids, not only with daughters, but also with sons, which is equally important. And with spouses, I think that conversation is also changing somewhat, not for everybody, obviously, but for many. So what I was just going to say too about my mother is she's the closest female in my family member in my life, if you will. I have aunts and cousins and people that I'm not in contact with. So I don't have as full a picture that I would like to have, but that's where it is. So it's every thing is unique, right?
Well, I think we were in the 70s, right? When our mom, it's like 60 people didn't talk about. My dad's favorite thing to say when he talks about his own emotional problems when he was young is, there was no Dr. Phil.
It's true. I mean,
true.
Where Dr. Phil was like Phil Donahue. It's like all of the topics that would come on talk shows and what, not that. And I think about Archie Bunker and Edith and, there's something, Maude. Do y'all remember the show called
Yes, Maude? I loved her.
Remember Maude got an abortion? Do y'all remember that?
Yes, that was heavy stuff.
It was a big damn deal.
Yeah.
I culturally speaking, I think that there was this interesting mix of what conversations we were having in the home, and then also what was happening in terms of pop culture and everything like that. I know I read Judy Blume's "Are You There, God Is Me, Margaret" cover probably 35 times, waiting for our best to magically appear. Me and my little circle of girlfriends, we were just working ourselves out, we were just working. Oh gosh! And when I finally got a training bra, I was so proud. I got a 28 AA.
You remember your size?
I do, because this is why I remember this, y'all. We were in gym. I was in 6th grade, and this girl named Michelle Siegler told me my mother wasted her money.
What? What? That's so mean.
What are you wearing? And it was this beautiful soft cotton with little eyelet all over it. And I said, "This is my training bra." And she was like,
"Training?"
Oh my God.
Your mother wasted her money. And I was like,
oh, you must have been wrecked. I would have been so upset.
I wanted to cry so bad, y'all. But there was so much conversation and preparation around into womanhood, right? So for folk who have uteruses and vaginas and vulvas, that looks different for a lot of different people, right? However, there is no "Are You There, God Is Me, Margaret" for us.
No.
Judy Blume write a book about it. She needs to. No, I wish she would.
Oh, I was going to say, what?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think we all have done this, I'm sure, but I even think I did a post about this, that there's so much chatter around getting your period and now you can get pregnant, and there's so much dialogue, and then there's this, sort of period where you can, if you become a mother and what that looks like, and all of these, you know, moments in life around womanhood or womanness, whatever it is. But this is it falls flat. And I think, and Anne-Marie, I thought of you a lot about this because you did a video on invisibility, which I thought was so interesting. You sort of challenge people to think about what that is, what that looks like. But I wondered if this is part of what it's all about, that there's not a lot of people speaking to this you know, season of life. And so perhaps it renders a lot of people feeling invisible, when actually there's no reason whatsoever that those two terms should be linked. You know, it's insane actually to say, you know.
Why can you talk about puberty all the time? Sorry, why can you talk about puberty? Why can you talk about infertility and then having a baby is like all we talk about, and then just like nothing? Right.
I mean, it's actually, it's impossible that it should be this way.
I'm sorry, I make you uncomfortable now. I'm making you uncomfortable now? Like after all this attention, the whole time?
I think it's the failing of so many systems, right?
Yeah.
I think that one of the beautiful things I've seen within reproductive justice as a framework and a movement is like the expansion of the spectrum, right? So it's like, can we be clear that reproductive justice also includes aging? Can we also be clear that it also includes sexual pleasure?
Right.
That it also includes the experiences and identities of people who identify as trans or gender fluid people.
Right.
So I think that we are situationally positioned to have a much more robust conversation about our lifespan, and that we have to create this. Like, you know, I teased, I got so excited, Anne-Marie, when we said Judy Blume should write a book, and I was like, she should write a book. No, we should write the book.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
We should write the book. Yeah.
We should do a book, because they just had that anthology that came out in the UK called Still Hot, and it was 42 essays. And I just find the US is so far ahead of the UK is
the
so
UK
far ahead.
Yeah.
And I think because their celebrities are always talking about it. I think that's because Taraji P. Henson just talked about it, and I was like, to me, it just meant the world that she spoke about that on the talk. Just
same thing with Michelle Obama. When Michelle, I saw your point, everybody went insane. I was like, so she talked about two things that felt so important to normalize: her mental health and menopause.
Yeah,
and everybody was like, oh, Michelle Obama.
I know.
Some depressing episodes. So has your best friend. So has your caretaker. So has your partner.
Right.
So like the influencers, the people who we look to as celebrity in this country who open the space. I would love to be a part of. You know, do y'all follow Heather Carina?
No.
So Heather Carina has written a book about perimenopause. I think it's called What Hot Mess Hell, or What Hell Hot Mess Is This?
Okay.
I'm messing up the title, but Heather is a writer and identifies as gender non-binary and is a feminist, has been doing like this amazing work, and they're writing this book, and it is voices from the U.S. Outside of what I would consider kind of a traditional spectrum of people who will be talking about menopause, and that I believe pre-orders are available for folks to pick up. So I'll share more.
Is the last name?
Carina is Carina. I got connected to Heather through Mona Eltahawy.
Oh yeah,
who is this badass, amazing feminist writer, journalist who does fuck the patriarchy. I don't know if but I just cussed.
They love cussing. I know. Hey, hello, Perry. I think.
And so but I do think that there needs to be more writing, more types of writing, more anthologies. You know, I've got a zine coming out called Messages from the Menopausal Multiverse, coming out in a couple of weeks.
Amazing.
Well, let's do it, ladies.
Yeah.
Let's make this happen. It's important for us, and it's also important for the generations of folk who are coming.
Yes.
To have these amazing, open conversations now? Not
My son's girlfriend said to me, she follows my Instagram, and she said a while ago, this is so helpful to know, and she's very close with her mother. She has a sister, but it really, I mean, it was very sweet to say, but it struck me that, time goes like that, and she's 25 years old, but before she knows it, she'll have a lifetime of experiences to share, and then she'll be looking at this season of her life and what an experience it may be for her to have now had all these years of listening to other women. Yes.
Normal.
Talking about, go ahead, I'm sorry.
But she just won't be scared of it. That's all. She'll be,
that's right.
Because she's been hearing about it all the time. Whereas
that's right.
I did hear, I was like, no, like, no. It's going to be like day. It's amazing.
Exposure is a big deal. Exposure is always a big deal. It's funny. I was thinking about when my son was small, I was divorced early in his life. And, sometimes you go to the bathroom and there goes your period and you need assistance. And, so he was at a very young age, aware of tampons and sanitary napkins and periods. And, it was age appropriate, but he sort of grew up without fear or ew or, any of this kind of stuff that I think, children should be made aware of. Anne-Marie, go ahead.
We have a minute. We just have a minute. So we're going to
what? This was so fast.
It was.
All right. So we need to do a virtual pinky promise that we're going to do this again.
Yes.
All right. So
yes.
I'm going to.
Pinkies up, ladies.
Let's do it again. Okay. I'm sorry it's so fast, but they said 35 minutes or so.
So let's do it again. We'll schedule it again.
We're going to do it again. We're just going to figure this out. And I'm glad to now be in the fold of having conversations with you all as a part of
Same.
I'm really excited to.
Anne-Marie, what time is it where you are?
20 to 8.
Okay. So it's not okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Good. So we'll do it again.
We'll do it again.
Bye, ladies. Yeah. Stay healthy. Be safe.
I'll be safe. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.